Hello, welcome to Philippi'n the Narrative. We are in Philippi Village at Black Flip Studio recording our second episode. Igama lami Sinethemba Kata and ndihleli no Esethu Mbooi, who is working at the garden that we have here in Philippi Village. We want to know more about what she's doing there, what is the garden all about, just to get to know more about planting and gardens and stuff like that. I'm very much interested. I hope you will learn a lot by the end of today's episode. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Welcome. I'm good. Welcome to Philippi'n the Narrative. We're flipping the narrative here.
Yeah.
Black Flip Studio, flipping the narrative. We're just flipping everything.
Yeah. Not the soil though.
Flipping the soil, not the soil.
Yeah, because in Permaculture, that's not actually a good thing to flip the soil.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll get into that.
Now let's get into it because I grew up, see pet, we get a fork spade and then fig and then you flip the soil.
Yeah.
So we're doing it wrong.
Well, in a way, yes.
Yeah.
But first, I'll just like to introduce myself, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm an environmental enthusiast, right? So I got into all of this gardening and all of that through working at Broader. So I never knew what is organic, what is not organic, and all of those things until I started to work there.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I was mind blown as to how many things we don't know when it comes to the garden and when it comes to the planet and what the planet is actually going through right now. So, and then I started to work in the garden. I learned what is the difference between organic and non-organic.
Yeah.
You'll understand that organic is food that is farmed in an ethical way, meaning that you don't put any sprays on it, right?
Yeah.
You don't put any chemicals on it. You don't use any machinery like your digger loads and stuff. So I was like, why don't we want to use machinery in the garden? Because technology is good. And then when I started to do more research, right, because I love to talk facts, I'm not the person who just say things. I love to talk facts. So I wanted to know why is it that we shouldn't do digging. And then after watching Kiss the Ground and all these other documentaries, I realized that the moment you start to dig, you are actually releasing all that CO2 that is trapped on the soil and releasing it back into the earth, which that is not a good thing because too much CO2 on the earth is actually damaging our ozone layers, and it's mainly the big reason why we are going through climate change right now. So and then I took it upon myself, to say, you know what, I want to be a custodian. I want to fight for Mother Nature, right? I want people to be aware of all of these things. And then what actually blew my mind was that the food that we eat, right? The non-organic food that we eat is actually killing us. It's the reason why people are going through high blood pressure diseases, people having cancer, people are actually dying, right? Our body is made to rest. At the end of maybe 100 and something years. Science says that our body is supposed to grow to over 100 years, but because of the food that we are now eating, our body does not have enough capacity to grow that long. So when I realized all of those things, I was like, you know what, I'm going to make it my mission to tell everybody. I'm going to make it my mission to make sure that everybody is aware of what is going on in our food system, right? And then it doesn't just affect us when we put the chemicals in the garden, but it goes to the soil as well, right? So if it goes to the soil, it goes straight to our water and it goes to our trees. So the oxygen now that we are breathing from the trees is already contaminated. And most of us, we don't know anything about it. We think that by going to buy food, we're actually doing a good thing. So my awareness, obviously, is not to scare people, but my job is to bring the awareness so that when you go to the shop, you know what you're getting yourself into, right? America now is dealing with a lot of lawsuits. People are actually suing they're actually suing the agriculture because they understand now that all of these diseases that they're getting is actually coming from the food. So, I just
I want to ask you a quick question though. You said we're not supposed to use machinery to dig this.
Yeah,
now, what happens when you are working like umhlaba, like a huge hectares of land? So what is preferred to use?
So I don't know if you've been to the garden yet, but in the garden we have we have chickens, right? So we are using what is called model farming. No? Model farming. So in the old days, way before us as Africans, we had any access to machines, we had any access to trucks and all of those things. We used to use our livestock to actually work the garden. So after we've harvested, I'm sure you would see cows go into the garden. So we have gardens, we have big gardens in the Eastern Cape and all around Africa. A lot of people have a lot of land. So when we harvest, there's a lot of crops that is leftovers, that is left in the garden, and all of those stems and stuff. So what they do is they bring in cows. So the cows start to graze and they start to eat all the leftovers, and the chickens as well. So in the meantime, while they're eating and grazing, they're actually pooing and peeing in the garden. So that is manure. That is very high in manure. That is where we get our manure from. So they poo and they pee and they eat and they eat. After they're done, you'll bring in your pigs. So the pigs will start digging for you. Will start to dig all the roots that are still underneath. And then when you're done with that, you put in your chickens and they start to scratch and whatnot. So by the time your garden is ready for season, you just throw your seeds in there.
So the soil is already ready for you.
The soil it has been dug. Also, there's manure in it. It has been fixed for you to just plant. So you don't have to buy manure from anywhere. You don't have to buy some type of chemicals. You don't have to have any machinery to use in the garden. It was only the people who never had livestock that came up with imihlakulo and amakuba and all of those things. But even that is not too harsh for the garden, unlike the machines that will just dig like this much of land. So what is happening there's so much worms that live in there. There's so much life under soil. So when you take this much of soil in your hand, there's like trillion.
I read that a spoon of the soil carries about 1,000 of
for sure.
Whatever.
So there's so much life in there. There's so much life behind the ground. So whenever we're doing that, we are just being ignorant and just doing whatever we feel like we need to do. So my whole vision is to, first of all, bring awareness to what is going on to our food system. And secondly is to teach people how you can do it in a more ethical way, how we can work with nature instead of working against nature, because we have seen that is not working for us. The planet is really fucked up right now because we are trying to do things the way that we think we should be done.
Excuse the French.
Sorry, guys. Instead of just doing it the way that it's supposed to be done.
Let's bring it to closer home here at Philippi Village. You are currently in the garden.
Yes.
There. What are you doing there? What's happening?
All right.
I see you guys. You had kids coming over.
For sure. Happening? So, like I said, in the garden we are. It's an example of what I'm talking about. It's showing people, okay, someone will say to me, oh, but I have this rough land and I really want to use machines. But I can say, come to the garden, see how the chickens have worked the land for us. We are aware that this used to be a cement factory, so that land was done for. The soil was completely dead. So what we tried to adapt is a model farming. So we brought the chickens so that they can start working the land. It's in their DNA, it's in their nature. That's what God made them for, right? So they start to dig there, they start to pull there, and that's why we have all of this food growing in the garden. It's thanks to the chickens. So I like to invite children over. Like I said, I'm just trying to spread the word.
Share the knowledge.
Exactly.
You're very knowledgeable. I think we're lucky to have you around here.
Thanks. It's a passion project. I do it with all my heart. I've made it a purpose. Some say you don't come into this world with a purpose. I've made saving the planet through gardening my purpose. Right. So I invite kids. During September holidays, we had a spring program. So Mondays we would do meditation and breath work, and then would work in the garden. The reason why I think meditation is important because we are a healing generation. We all have went through traumas of different kinds as we grow up. Everybody. And then I'm just trying to create a safe space in the garden, and the garden is all about healing. You know, when once you start to work the land, there's so much that you start to learn in the garden, right? Like yesterday, I was walking through the garden and I saw this cauliflower. It was my first time to ever see a cauliflower come from the ground. I've always seen it in a packet.
Did you plant it?
Yes. Yes. So I saw it and I was like, mind blown. And then it just reiterated something that I always have in my mind, is that the garden, what I've learned in the garden, what actually attracted me to be in the garden, when I planted that one seed, right? And I planted that seed and I started to water it, and then I saw it sprout. That for me was just, it was mind-blowing. It made me cry. My first plant.
It made you cry.
Exactly. In my mind, what I thought about is, we all have big dreams, right? We all have big dreams. That if I can tell you my dream, someone will say, that's insane, that's crazy. You're coming from this background, you are this color, you are a woman, there's so much going on, you have so much against you, right? So that is that seed, that is my idea, right? And then when I put it into the ground and I start to water it and I start to take care of it, it's the same thing that happens to you subconsciously. You have an idea, and then the more you tell yourself, I'm not going to listen to negativity, that is you watering that seed. I'm not going to listen to what social people are saying. I'm not going to listen to all of the things that I have that are not working for me. Instead, I'm just going to keep on pushing. I'm going to work on myself firstly, right? I'm going to educate myself on this idea that I have. I'm going to put in passion. It's not going to be easy, but I'm going to do it. And then at some point, after you've done all the hard work, you have to let it go. You have to let go and trust that whatever the Creator, God, whatever you believe in is going to make it work for you. That's the same as a garden. You plant that seed, you water it every day. It won't sprout today, it won't sprout tomorrow. It might take 2 weeks, right? In that moment, you have no idea what is going on in the background. The moment you take it out and you put it back again, it won't. Exactly.
There's so much going on in gardening, like, and the way you explain it, it feels like it's just a philosophy on its own. I mean,
it is.
So I want to find out one thing though. Makanda learning garden. Kutheni kusithiwa Makanda learning garden?
All right. So it's a Makanda learning garden because of the chickens. So the chickens are the first things that were in the garden, right? And then we get a Makanda, which is the byproduct, right? So we are selling a Makanda, and then we just decided because the chickens are the pioneers of the land, they are the reason why we were able to plant so much spinach and beetroot and everything that we've planted. So we called it a Makanda learning garden. A Makanda means eggs in Xhosa.
And then the learning part, what does it mean?
And the learning garden. So the learning garden is, like I said, we have programs that we bring children over to come and learn. So it's about learning how to plant, learning how to make your own compost, right? So compost is the soil that is ready for you to plant on. So it's learning how to make compost, learning how to plant, learning how to take care of your plants, and just learning the whole garden circle, because it's an ecosystem, right? You know that if you want to go into permaculture like we are doing at the garden, you have to plant your spinach, you have to plant your beetroot and spinach at the same place at the same time. Why is that? Because spinach is taking nutrients from the soil, right? And every root vegetable is bringing back nutrients to the soil, but also it is taking at some point. So when you have a balance, you have leaves, and then you have beetroot, then it creates a balance. So you are not taking much from the soil. You are taking, but you are also giving back. So
it sounds like a soil is a very sensitive thing.
It is. There's a whole campaign that says save soil. In India, there's a huge campaign. I don't know if you know Sadhguru.
Yeah, I know. I know Sadhguru. You listen to Sadhguru?
Of course.
That's my favorite guy.
Of course, I listen to him. So he has this campaign going on to save soil, right? So soil is the beginning of everything, right? In the Bible, they say we were made out of soil.
Of soil, yeah.
So that just goes that soil has been there. Soil is the beginning of everything, right? Without soil, we can't have food. We can't have trees. We can't have the houses that we live in. We can't have the clothes that we wear, right? And all the animals, every animal depends on the health of the soil. So the soil is the basis of everything.
Okay, so what's special about the products that you guys produce by Makanda Learning?
So our products are organic. We don't put any chemicals in the food that we produce.
Okay.
It's farmed in an ethical way,
Meaning,
meaning that we don't put chemicals and we don't use machinery, and also we are using a crop rotation process, right?
Explain the crop
so
rotation
today,
process.
this month, we're going to plant spinach,
Yeah.
and then when we have harvested all the spinach, we'll plant carrots. We won't plant spinach in the same place because we're trying to save the soil, right?
Okay.
So we are actually giving back to Mother Nature as much as we are taking. So because we are doing that, is it time? Oh.
Now let's keep going.
Okay, so it's very high in nutrients, first of
Yeah.
all, because it gets everything that it's supposed to get without getting all the chemicals that are not good for our bodies. That's what makes it special, right? Yeah.
And your prices, how do you guys sell the
Yes.
chicken?
We sell the spinach at 10 rands. You normally get it for 15 rands. We do sell the chickens when they are old enough because we don't want to slaughter them in the garden. They are workers. We don't want to
How
traumatize.
do you decide? Sorry to cut you, but how long is the lifespan of a
It's
chicken?
18 months for the factory ones. And
18
then,
months.
yeah, 18 months.
So that's like a full-grown chicken.
Yeah, it's
How
done
wise
for
at
us.
18 months.
At 18 months, it stops laying eggs. So then we sell it to the community. So after a year, it will start to lay eggs again. But since we're paying so much for feed, because feed is very expensive, the reason why it's expensive is because it's imported. The reason why we import it is because there's nobody in South Africa who's doing non-GMO feed for chickens. So we have, because we want to do it ethically, we don't want to feed them GMO, because GMO is genetically modified organisms. So it's the same, they put chemicals into the seed.
Yeah.
So we want to do it non-GMO, right?
Naturally.
So we have to import it, so it's quite expensive. Yeah, so we can't have chickens that are not laying eggs. We can't keep those chickens that are not laying eggs because we are having workers, we are paying them, but they're not doing anything in return. It doesn't make any sense, right? So at 18 months, we sell them to the community. Like this month end, we're actually selling some of our chickens for 60 rands.
60 rands
Yes,
for chicken.
healthy chickens. They are fed non-GMO food, and they graze, so they are free range. We allow them to go wherever they want. We don't keep them in a cage.
Yeah.
And also, so they're quite nice. They taste nice because they're grown the way they're supposed to grow. We don't put any chemicals in them to make them fat. We don't keep them in a cage, so we don't have to put any antibiotics in them. We don't have to put any estrogen in them. They grow the way they're supposed to grow. You would say ngumleqwa in a way. Yeah.
Unfortunately, man, we run out of time. Very interesting conversation. I learned a lot in just a short space of time. If there was one thing that you wanted to say to anybody who will be listening or watching, what is the one important thing from your heart
From my heart.
that you want people to know about the earth, gardening, or whatever it is that we've spoken about? What is the one thing that you want to say?
So one thing that I always tell people is that soil is connected to soul, right?
Wow, that's powerful already.
Yes, if you can connect yourself to the soil and be open to learn, you will learn more about the soil and how your body works. Because we are not, there is no nature in humans, we are all nature together. How the plants grow is exactly how you grow. You need sunlight, you need water, you need all of those things.
Yeah.
If we can immerse ourselves in nature and learn from it, there's so much that we can learn from ourselves. That's what I would leave.
That's
people
powerful.
with.
It's a wrap. Thank you very much for tuning in. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Yay.